Welcome to the show, Alana. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you, Gregory. I'm thrilled to be here.
So, you have a podcast called Ditch the Struggle, and I'm
Yes.
curious, what does that mean to you, and how do people actually do that?
It means a lot to me. The ditching the struggle. Struggle was part of my origin story. So I grew up with a dad that said everything's a struggle. And I realized that this permeated every facet of my whole life. So I ended up creating a ton of struggle. And one day realized I didn't maybe have to live my life quite that way, but I was very addicted to it. So I actually feel like my struggle was a bit of an addiction. So I have been on a mission ever since my early 20s to figure out why I'm struggling, how I can reduce the struggling, what struggle actually means. And I have had so many stories to share in a very interesting career. I bounced around a lot. I have not had a linear career. And I want to share what I've learned and talk to other people who are also realizing that they can make their life a little easier than they thought it could be.
I love that. And we're going to have so much to talk about already because I've been in a multi-year conversation with one of my friends and mentors. He thinks that life is suffering and a struggle. I think that life is beautiful. Obviously, there is struggle and suffering involved, but I think that when you label life as a whole as struggle or as suffering, you kind of set yourself up for failure. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I would agree. And I think there's a big differentiation between unnecessary struggle and like struggle that you have to go through. So if you have to run a marathon, chances are you're going to struggle with those last few miles. But so ditch the unnecessary struggle doesn't sound quite as good. So I kind of shortened it out, but it's, there's things that we have to go through that are hard. Like just there's rites of passage, things that will bring us to our knees. But I think that a lot of us, including myself, make things harder than they have to be and feel we are a more worthy human of living on this planet if we struggle more. So I kind of felt like I had to earn my keep on this planet. Very strange concept, but I've been really unpacking where this came from. It was like the harder I worked, the more blood, sweat, and tears. A lot of it was to do with the industry that I ended up working in. That defined my value as a person, a human, someone living here. And I felt I had self-worth if I struggled more.
It's very understandable. I definitely suffer from that at times. It's that Puritan work ethic that I feel like is ingrained in Western culture specifically, but a lot of
Yes.
cultures. And where do you think that came from for you? Obviously, you said your dad modeled it, but did it come
Yes.
from anywhere else in your life?
So I definitely think, and I would say this is a common thread when I talk to people who have like immigrant parents. So my dad came from Italy. My mom came here from England. They came here with like basically nothing in their 20s. They met here and they bought the tiniest house they could possibly get or afford and then literally shared. They used to rent out a room. There was one bathroom in the house, rent out a room, and they had my baby sister and they just made it work. So it was like they literally came from nothing. It's incredible. And they kind of, the story of like made a life here and tried to give their children something better. So that was definitely my model for how life has to go. It has to be really hard. And my dad worked he had his own tiling company. So was physically on his hands and knees setting tiles for most of his life. And he loved the work. So he truly loved what he did. Because I remember asking him when he was, before he passed, would you have done anything different? And he said no. So he enjoyed what he did, but it was a hard job. And with it came struggle. And he talked about it a lot. And I was very connected to my dad and I took it on and I just was like, oh, this has got to be hard. Things have to be hard for them to be worthy.
It's such a common belief that so many people share, and I'm excited to maybe unpack that a little bit today.
Yeah.
And so maybe you can tell us a little bit about your superhero origin story. You've started to mention, I'm assuming growing up, you were doing everything you could to work really hard to
Yeah.
achieve, to make your dad proud. Tell us a little
Yes.
bit about that, and then maybe we'll get to some fun breaking points that usually happen when I'm speaking with people on this podcast.
The breakdowns, the breakthroughs, all of that.
Yep.
Yeah. I I I became a workaholic, yeah, really in a young age. Like I do think I kind of came out of the womb wanting to be productive. Like I feel like I am a natural high performer, high achiever, but I definitely took this game way too far, like way too far. I started my career as a graphic designer. I still work as a graphic designer. So I was in the creative world. I had a very natural, like creative talent, design talent, really young. I had my first paid graphic design gig at the age of 15 years old. My friend's parent was like, "Can you draw an 8 foot long chart for me? Like literally a physical chart. I'll give you $150." I was like, "That is so much money." Yes, I will. And I like laid it out in my parents' dining room with a Sharpie and did this whole thing for some corporate presentation. And I, went into graphic design as soon as high school. I started studying it. Then I went to college and specialized in it and specialized in actually packaging design. I've always been in the creative world, a little bit of advertising. And in that world, it's long hours. It was a lot of 16-hour days, especially if I worked in a demanding studio. And all along, though, I was studying personal development and doing the reading and trying to figure things out and how do you make more money and all of that stuff. Because graphic designers generally, especially in Canada, it's a little different in the States, but we make a garbage salary. So I talk a lot about that. I help a lot of graphic designers kind of charge what they're worth. But it was a lot of work. I loved having as many jobs as possible. I kind of ran around. My nickname was Mad Dog. My dad would call me Mad Dog, like stop running around like a mad dog. But I loved it for a while until I didn't.
Yeah, and I'm sure that hearing that from your dad and also probably getting praised by others for how hard you worked, that mad dog became a bit of a badge of honor.
Oh, it's like perfect entry into martyrdom, right? So it's like I was in 2019 and I was at this corporate job. And I remember the general manager of the company, we went to the Christmas party and my husband and I showed up and she says to my husband, she's like, "This is the hardest working person I know." And I was like, okay, that's the validation. I didn't want it, but it felt like a compliment. And I was like, I knew that should not define everything. But deep down, there is that part of my origin story that it satisfied in terms of feeling like, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I have earned that keep that I'm looking for.
And how do you see hard work now?
Very
What
different.
percentage of the equation is it? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So here's a difference. I've had to really differentiate the difference between hard work and struggle. So the two different things. So once I made that differentiation, and this is what I talk about a lot on my podcast. So hard work kind of leaves you tired and challenged, satisfied and proud. Like you're going to be tired from hard work. And I love to work hard, but the struggle that leaves you angry and resentful. It leaves you really miserable and it leaves you feeling invisible. I found like if I was in a struggle cycle, I'm working hard. I'm working like a crazy person and never feeling like people are seeing me for what I'm contributing. I'm around toxic people who don't care. They're just using me for what they can get out of me. So there was a very different mindset shift. And I've had to start kind of going through my life, identifying when I'm just working hard in a healthy way and when I'm fully in struggle mode.
And what do you do when you realize that you're in struggle mode instead of just working hard?
Yeah. So this is when I slash my calendar. This is just like the first thing I will go to is my calendar because I've taken on too much. Like that's my default is like to take on too much. So I will cut out whatever I can, any unnecessary obligations. If I've potentially taken on too much work, which right now I was kind of sitting there yesterday thinking, like, you know what? I'm a freelancer. So clients and both design clients and coaching clients come to me sporadically. There's not necessarily a calculated flow to it. So sometimes when I get inundated, I will start going through what can I eliminate? What can I reduce? How can I make my days easier? I don't have to I can take steps to make it easier. And what projects can I push back and things like that. So I will proactively, first of all, tackle my calendar.
Yeah. And I can really understand as a coach myself, the draw to saying yes to everything when things are coming in. You just want to grab them and serve people and help people. I mean, that's why we get into this in the first place, but it's also the ups and downs and the uncertainty around entrepreneurship. When opportunities that sound awesome come in, you're like, yeah, I can do it. Of course I can do it. Doesn't matter if you have 8 hours of other work already scheduled for that day. You're going to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I certainly could. And that would have been my default response, just to take it all on, right? Now, if you take that step back and do that, the pausing, it's very different.
The pause, the power of the pause. It's so
I
helpful. And
know.
so, okay, so you were operating
Yeah.
as the mad dog achiever
Yeah.
for many years, it sounds
Yes.
like.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into some of the juicy details of the breakdowns and the breakthroughs.
Breakdowns. So no surprise, my body was really physically like retaliating. And what I've come to kind of learn is that as someone who is, a highly sensitive empath, someone who takes on a lot of things around me, I didn't have that awareness back then. I would just physically get sick, but it really started showing up as, so when I was maybe 14, 15, the migraines started. So that would have been the first thing that my body was doing to shut down. And in retrospect, I can see that the migraines, if you've ever had one or know someone had one, you have to lock yourself in a dark room basically for about 24 hours. So what better way to stop yourself from doing anything than to literally be physically shut down in a dark room? So there was a purpose to it, and it served me. The other thing that was happening is panic attacks, and anxiety really kicked in. The anxiety had started when I was around 16, that I consciously remember as like chest pains, fluttering, not knowing why I didn't feel right, had no real words for it. And then I had like a full panic attack at 19, when I was at my second year of college. So it was like 1920, and outside of one of my classrooms. And the stereotypical panic attack where the room kind of closes in. It's like called derealization, where you feel like you're in a movie and sound goes weird and you feel like you're about to have a heart attack. And I got so cold and I was like clammy and just, and multiple times I was in emergency because I thought I was dying. Yeah.
Wow. So you had those experiences pretty early on.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't get that full blown panic attack until they're 45,
Yeah.
staring down the barrel of a full blown midlife crisis.
Yes. Yeah. No, I got them early, and they really stayed for a long time, up off and on. And I really didn't have a good toolbox for it. Like I didn't kind of knew what was happening. I just was like, it's stress, it's anxiety, but I didn't until I really got older and started unpacking it further and then started seeking out solutions. I kind of lived with a lot of it and just kind of like battled through. And my solution would be to distract myself with more work. So my body was trying to tell me stories and kind of get my attention, and I was just like kept pushing it aside. And when you're really young, you can do it for a while. Like you can
Mm-hmm.
do it for quite a long time, actually.
Yeah. And for the people who are listening who might be struggling with migraines, maybe they've had a panic attack,
Yeah.
maybe they are seeing some of their self in your story of just working more and working harder. What were some of these solutions that you started to implement?
Well, it took me a long time. I would love to say that I didn't have anything figured out until my 30s, for like not even close. Like so, but what I really had to, I hate to say slow down. So I choose to say pace myself. For me, it's a big mindset shift. It just like I had to obviously not take on everything. I had to work with a lot of different practitioners. So therapy, coaching, naturopath. I've done every modality you can possibly think of. And here's the thing, some did not work at all, and some worked great, but it took a long time to figure out. So that's like a whole journey in itself to figure, like, it's very frustrating when people are like, oh, try this, it worked for me and it doesn't work for you. So that was a whole thing to kind of figure out. Um, I had to I had to really look at my nervous system, but that's something like, how everyone talks about the nervous system now, which
Yeah.
I'm loving. Back then, no one talked about it. Like, and if I could honestly just change one thing about how I, got through my career and my whole life in the beginning, it would be that wish I had looked at my nervous system differently, and I wish I had had professionals to help me navigate my nervous system, because I was in fight or flight mode 24 hours a day.
Yeah. And I'm sure that anxiety anxiety is something that was not talked about much back then either. The nervous system,
No.
anxiety, and it's what just popped into my mind is like we, most of us, myself included, you just saw me drink a little bit of tea. We habitually and routinely drink something that puts us almost in fight or flight, which is caffeine,
Mm-hmm.
on a very regular basis. Most Americans and probably Canadians and many people in the world are never actually fully sober from caffeine. It's always in our system.
Yeah.
And we wake up and we drink caffeine and we work hard and we go to the gym and we work hard and all these things. And it's just a recipe for the nervous system to be overtaxed and overwhelmed.
Oh, I was living off of. There's a chain of coffee here. Any Canadian listeners will laugh at this, like Canadian or Second Cup Coffee, and they had this Irish cream coffee back in the day. I was living off Irish cream coffee. Like it's so. It was so unsupportive of my body, but I was doing all nighters. Like I was in a really crazy demanding program. I was pulling all nighters. I actually gave up coffee in 2019. So I haven't had coffee since 2019 because I have had to come to the harsh reality that it is not helping and supporting of my nervous system.
Do you drink tea or
Yes, I
are
do
you?
drink tea, which has a totally different effect on me. Like it doesn't give me
Same.
the spike. It doesn't hurt my stomach. And anyways, sometimes I do think we have to make sacrifices for our health, but I'm never going to tell anyone not to drink coffee because I just think that feels too harsh.
That's a big fight to pick with a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't want the Starbucks crowd taking me out.
So how do you know if you're burnt out? And we can answer this kind of on a you specific level, but
Yeah.
also for someone who you're working with, how do they know if they're starting to feel burnt out or exhausted or if they're in struggle instead of just working hard on something that matters?
So I'll start with for me, it's and I had this happen not too long ago, and I realized I just took a week off, and it was just amazing how taking some time off helps, right? But when the resentment really kicks in, when it's like if Pam from accounting asked me to do one more thing, I will punch her in the face. Do you know what I mean? Like there is an irrational response to certain things that are being asked of you, or if you have to do the dishes at home and it feels so overwhelming, the idea that you have to do your dishes, that to me is a huge sign that we are in burnout, that we've gone too far, that we now, like, think about it. If you don't have the capacity and the bandwidth to do like a minor thing, it means that there's just nothing, we're so depleted, like there's nothing left. And we go that far. Like that's just part of our, again, the Western culture that you talk about. It is a workaholic culture. And we usually don't notice we're in burnout until after it's happened. Like the signs are there. We're resentful, we're angry, we're depleted, as I've talked about. We start to not care. So there's a detachment to everything that you're doing, and you're doing kind of a half-assed job. That can happen too. And of course, not the not sleeping. So that would have happened with me as well, like not sleeping. And then that creates a cycle of high cortisol and things like that. So those are some of my symptoms. And I would say across the board, I see that as well. Because I work in career coaching, I will see people wanting to maybe completely light their career on fire. They're like, I don't know if I want to be a school teacher anymore, and just like light a match to that and just let it all go. That could be totally the right move, but it could also be that you've had 3 years of teaching really challenging grade 2 students at a school where the principal was really toxic, and you need a break from that.
Yeah, I really resonate with that because a lot of people I work with assume that I'm going to try and convince them to light their life on fire because that's what I did. But I always start by saying that that is one option of many options, and it's not usually the best option.
I love
It's
that you say that. Yeah.
it's that's a one-way door. It's hard to come back from it. It's a roller coaster. It can be terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. But going back to the burnout real quick, I think you really nailed it with the resentment and the apathy. For me, I've noticed under the resentment category when, like you mentioned, something that you usually handle with no problem is a big issue. Like I remember I was driving to the office one day and my gas light came on and I was like pissed. I was like, why do I need to go get gas? Again, it's this thing that's just routine that I'm now irritated by. And that's usually when I can tell that I'm burnt out.
Yeah, and if we take the time to notice these things instead, like that's the awareness piece that I know coaches always can help really bring to the table. It's like, and I had to build up that awareness and then also course correct. But it's noticing that you're snappy, that you're cranky, and then choosing to do something about it again. Yeah.
And I was looking at your website, learning more about how you help people. And I love what you said about for professionals who crave change in their work, but when it comes to how to get there, they keep falling short. So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Yeah, the falling short thing has been something that was again personal for me. I was like, I just know I can, and I say the phrase "do better." I feel like I can do better. Not like we always have to be um, the best or anything like that, but I do have a growth mindset. And it was like I was just kind of having these crappy jobs, and I just knew I could have a better life. I could do better. And I just kept falling short because I was in burnout, struggle mode, all these things. And so when I'm working with people, it's like getting in touch, like back to what lights them up and all those things and kind of their core values. But actually, here's a strategy. And I agree that most people are not just going to light the match and set things on fire, but they certainly can get more clear on what they are looking for, what's important to them, and target that. Because I think a huge part of people struggling with their career is that they do know what they have a sense of what they might want to do a lot of the time. Not sometimes they don't, but they are just terrified to go for it because of judgment of others.
Yes, they're so afraid of changing their identity and changing the little box that they've been operating in because what are my friends going to say? What are mom and dad going to say? What is Uncle Tom going to say? Like, there's usually when people are really afraid of making a change and they're worried about what people will think, it's
Mm-hmm.
usually not people plural. It's usually like one person.
Yeah.
And that's been one of my favorite tools to really drill in with my clients is if they're terrified of what other people will think, keep asking until you reveal that it's literally some
Mm-hmm.
cousin or uncle or friend or ex partner that is somehow going to judge you
Yeah.
because of the change you're going to make.
And isn't that crazy to think that we're sitting there wondering what cousin Ricky is thinking of our career path? They're not like they may have an opinion for sure, but it really shouldn't be something that totally just puts a roadblock up. And so I just help people work through that because there's a lot of fear, which I get. It's like changing that identity, changing, learning something totally new, potentially choosing a career that's going to pay less money. Let's say you're in banking. And I remember working with someone in corporate and she was probably making a great salary and she wanted to become a massage therapist. That's a huge lifestyle change, right? That's a huge financial change. There's a lot of things that happen with that, right? So yeah, it's not easy.
And how often would you say that people you work with make one of those big changes versus just making a small step change or maybe a lateral move somewhere else?
I would say 80% of the time they're making small lateral changes. Yeah. Or at like, so only 20% of the time are they making a huge shift. And a lot of the time I help people launch a side business because I've been such a hustler and I know how important sometimes an extra source of income can be, especially if your day job is really falling short of where you want what you're looking for. I'm not saying to take on more work, but it can be a passion project or something to just do on the side that is fulfilling because the fulfillment piece is so important. And I do work with a lot of people who find their day job unfulfilling. So it's like,
Hmm.
how do we find something to give you that satisfaction? What can you do one day a week, whether it's a hobby, a side hustle, something else that can get you closer to maybe discovering a whole new career path?
Yeah. And I think that's a really important call out. I would love everyone to exist in a world where what they do for work fulfills them, brings them meaning. It is their purpose. It is the reason for their existence. But that is rarer, I would say, than it is more common. And helping people realize that you can work a job that is so so as long as you are building yourself outside of work and you're going after your dreams, you're having these experiences, you're continuously becoming the person you want to be. You can't just expect to work this so so job and feel fulfilled and full of meaning all the time.
Absolutely. And so I have a big opinion on the day job thing, which I call a job. So I'll just refer, like I usually say, like your 9 to 5 is your job. That if it doesn't totally fulfill you, your number one mission should be to, and I don't like to tell people what to do, but my recommendation is that that job leaves you time, energy, and bandwidth at the end of the day to do other things. So if that so-so job that you don't really love is zapping every ounce of your energy, your number one goal, your priority has to be to move into another job. Even if it's not a dream job, it's just a stepping stone job that gives you time at the end of the day, weekends, lunch hour, whatever it is, to do the things that are meaningful to you. Because then the resentment won't build up as much.
Okay, I'm so glad you bring this up, and we need to dive in here because that was the hardest thing in my own journey, was that I was completely used up at the end of every day, both from a time perspective, but then also from an energy perspective. And there was this whole added layer of me knowing that I was capable of more and being too afraid to do anything about it. So every day, regardless of however many hours I worked, I would just beat myself up at the end of the day because I was like, oh, another day where I didn't have the courage to do anything about my life. So what do you advise to those people?
Yeah, I feel like I can feel the pain of that.
Oh yeah.
It's like I've totally been there because it's giving your whole life to a job that is meh or that you don't really care about is, I think it just kills your soul. I just don't know how else to say it. It just kills your soul. And this is kind of the way the system is designed. It's like we're just designed to work. But this is where people get tripped up. They think that they have to go from that job that's like sucking their soul and to something that's completely 100% meaningful. And I'm saying there's maybe the bridge between it is like finding more of a less demanding 9-to-5 job that gives you some space, because I see this, exactly what you're saying, people beating themselves up. They're like, I can't believe the whole day's gone by and I've done nothing for me, or I have this idea for this project and I've done nothing. And then it just feeds this cycle of self-beratement, right? But what if you could entertain the idea that there's something else you could be doing as a day job to pay the bills, which everyone has. We've got to be, thoughtful of that. That gives you space, time, bandwidth to do something that is important to you. Now, the trick is to make sure that you actually fill that time with something that you actually want to do as opposed to scrolling through TikTok or something like that. But it is possible. And I think that's where we get really trapped in our careers, thinking that the situation where we are in is the only way we can do things. And that was what I thought. I was like, I've obviously got to work 4 jobs to make a living being a graphic designer because every job pays so crap. Well, that wasn't actually true, but I was definitely I was really good at finding those crappy paying jobs. So.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like if you are in a job that is completely draining you mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, it might be in your best interest to find a job that pays the bills, doesn't take all the time, and you aren't completely used up by the end of it each day so that you can have that time to pour into a side project.
Exactly. But here's the challenge. If you're a high achiever, high performer, you're going to feel like you're being lazy at your day job.
Yes.
And then you're going to start, well, look, I could do more. You'll take on that task force, the optional task force at your corporate job. You'll just, it is easy to fill your time and energy with stuff, again, that are not for you. So I really do feel it's like coming back and being very selfish. Like, do what you need to do, commit to your job and do their job and do a good job, but really get kind of ruthless about how you're going to harness your time and energy for the other things.
And what have you seen to be most effective there? Obviously, it's person by person, but is it carving out time before the job, carving out time at lunch, carving out time after the job? Because that was my biggest struggle. And I think going back to what I was sharing, I think I was just in a job that was not leaving any space for me.
Yeah.
But I never understood. I was like, I read all the personal development books and it's like, work on your side hustle on the side and like moonlight and all these things. And I was like, I'm dead. I'm a zombie.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like, you will never hear from me to join some 5 a.m. club ever. Like, why do we have to do everything at 5 a.m.? Like, I don't understand this whole movement. But anyway, we need more sleep. We don't need less sleep. We need more sleep. So that is obviously person by person. I do believe in working with your natural like rhythm of your day. So I do think it's really helpful to get conscious of when you're most productive in the day. So for me, my window that I'm the best at is between like 10 and 3 p.m. Before and after, I'm not really that great. And it's funny because I used to be a total night owl. I am not a night owl anymore. So then I will like make sure that I do the most things that I need to get done. But yeah, so working with your natural rhythms. The other thing is consistency doesn't have to be every day. Like I have a project that I'm working on. It's a BHAG for me, a big, hairy, audacious goal. I work on it once a week. I do not have time or energy for more than once a week. It's taking a long time. I have my podcast, my clients, all the things. That's still consistent. And I have become very at peace with this rhythm of once a week. It's about 4 hours. So you can be consistent, and it doesn't have to like be something you do every single second of every single day. Because I think that also, if I keep pushing myself to do more, then I'm going to really get into that angry, resentful territory.
Yeah, and you're going to start resenting the project or the thing that was supposed to bring you passion and excitement.
No, and I'm really enjoying it. So I'm like, okay, we're just going to like literally like let sleeping dogs lie. We're just going to keep going at this rate kind of thing. So I think being a little bit kinder to yourself in terms of like how you're going to do the things. And it really can be as something as a yoga class a week or whatever it is. Because I just actually did a podcast episode about this. And what I was noticing with some of my clients is that they were getting so angry and resentful because they were giving up super tiny things in their life that were bringing them so much joy. So the example I used in an episode was I talked to a client who had to give up her book club because her company would not let her leave early on Wednesdays or work from home on Wednesdays. So she had to bail from this, basically a community. It's not just book club, it's the community. It's talking to these women that really lit her up and were smart and excited and like stimulating. And it was like the highlight. So she had to give that up. So then what happens? Anger, resentment starts building. It is those little things. So, it doesn't have to be this big side hustle, but whatever is going to be something that brings you joy and cultivates those core values that you've established.
Yeah. And I definitely want to ask about this mystery BHAG. We'll come back to that in a moment.
Okay.
First, did you do anything intentionally or consciously to shift your night owlness, or was it kind of a natural shift?
I kind of love that you're asking about this because I've reflected on this a lot lately because so the household I grew up in was very, a lot of the anxiety, my parents fought all the time. So it was actually just a lot of yelling, screaming. And if they weren't yelling and screaming, it was the silent treatment, and it was really intense. And what I didn't understand is my body was tapping into that at a very young age. So I grew up with a lot of chaos. So I was in the design world. You do late night things, but I was coming home from high school. I would have a nap every day, and I would stay up till like 2 a.m. working like all the time. And I'm starting to wonder if that night owl pattern was established because everyone went to bed around 9 o'clock. My dad got up really early, and it was the only time in the house I had peace to myself. So this is where I think I'm landing in terms of that pattern that got established for years and years and years. And then in 2017, I ended up taking a government job, and I have an episode about how a government job saved my life temporarily. It was like the job I didn't know I needed, but I totally needed, which I love telling this to people. Is like, you can go into a job kicking and screaming, and sometimes it's literally the best thing that can ever happen to you. So that's another story for another day. But I had to wake up at 5:30 and commute to a different city. Like it was a 2 hour by bus. So I was leaving the house at 6:30 in the morning, and I had to start literally being a morning person, whether I liked it or not. And kind of ever since then, I moved more into like this routine of doing things in the morning. And now I get up 6:30 or so, and I love mornings, but I also have the luxury of slow mornings now. Whereas I work from home, I can do my meditation, my walk, my whole thing, spend time with my senior dog. So it's not as rushed, but it is something that I have morphed into. And again, I'm wondering how much of my patterns were established because that was the only way for my nervous system to decompress.
That is so interesting and a good observation that it might have been a survival strategy. It might have been the only time throughout your day that you had some peace and quiet that you could actually get things done.
Yeah. And I love those memories. And I kind of sometimes wish I could be a night owl again, just listening. I had the TV or the radio going on in the background, and I would just work and get in the zone. And like any creative designer person knows, when you're in that zone, it's like an amazing feeling. But it's okay. I do things differently now.
It's also just a testament to the power of environment and how when your environment's one way, you might
Yes.
be a night owl. If you shift your environment, you might become a morning person, or you might have a job or external circumstance that forces you to become a morning person.
And that's so important. Like yes, we have to do the internal work, but external circumstances are huge. Like literally take yourself out of the toxic job and things can shift for you. Get yourself away from that person. Um, it's huge. And so there is a lot of self-blame that happens in the personal development world. Like it's like you just have to have change your mindset, do this, do this, this. Sometimes no, just literally get out of the situation. And I do help people also leave like a job that they hate, because I've had some pretty crazy toxic jobs as well. So the strategy of how you can actually leave a job, I can help people with that too. It's interesting.
I love that. I just want to underline the environmental design one more time, and then I have a different question. But you're so right. It's impossible to eat junk food at home if you don't have any junk food in your home. That's the go-to easiest one for me. I am a monster when it comes to sweets if they're around. So whenever I go home and I'm with my parents, like I'm eating all the sweets, but I never ever ever have them when I'm at home because I just don't buy them. And it's like that small intentional shift you can make to just do the things to try and make it impossible for you to do the behavior that you don't want. And it becomes so much easier. You don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah, 100%.
So you were commuting 2 hours by bus to a government job, and you're saying that this somehow saved your life?
It saved my life. I think it was like 2.5 hours each way. I was commuting 5 hours a day because I was like, I was between cars, and like I did end up getting a new car, but um, I had to do this job. Like it was a contract job that came along, and 2016 was not a good year for me. Like it was, the anxiety had spiked, all these things. Like I felt like I took 100 steps backwards. And um, I knew I had a very demanding, like I had a challenging relationship with my mom that was very draining. So that was like a huge thing. And I knew I needed to work a job again. I was freelancing because, to be honest, I needed to make myself less available to my family. And that sounds a little bit harsh, but I didn't feel like I could set a boundary any other way because a lot of stuff was just falling on me. And my career was kind of falling apart, or just, I didn't know, I couldn't, and my anxiety was too high. So I was just applying to jobs. And then I randomly got this job, a graphic designer for like a city government job. And it's the city next to mine. So I didn't even live in that city. And weirdly, like, didn't even prepare for the job interview because I was like, I'm never going to get this job. I'm not I don't know how I remember this. I didn't wash my hair for like 6 days. I just like threw it in a bun. I threw on whatever, and I went to this interview. And as soon as I got into the two people interviewing me, I was like, oh my God, these people are amazing. These people are smart, and holy crap, this is like an actual opportunity. I just didn't do my much due diligence before the interview. I did everything like I tell people not to do. So, yeah, it was a 1-year contract. So there was no major commitment. I'm a big fan of a contract job when you're also trying to figure out what the heck to do with your career. Yes, you're not going to have some of the benefits and all those things. You still get vacation usually, but it is a great way to have a change and a shift with less commitment and a steady paycheck. So I'm a big fan of moving to contract jobs when you don't know what you're doing. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. The crazy commute gave me tons of time to think. But what happened was, it was like, to this day, some of the smartest, funniest, best people I've ever worked with my entire life. So the environment was completely supportive. The people were amazing. The work actually ended up being much more interesting than I thought because it was government. I ended up winning a design award for one of the projects I did. And I'm still friends with all those people.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And it goes back to something I was going to bring up earlier, which you just kind of spoke to, is with contract work, you might not have benefits. You might not have the vacation pay. And it's so funny because all my friends, will complain about their paid time off and all this stuff. And they're like, oh, I might have to take a day where I don't get paid for not working. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, if I don't show up to the office, I'm not getting paid. And it is so worth it. Like, this is a hill I will die on.
Yeah.
It is so worth it to be able to control your time and your calendar, at least to a bit of an extent. Like, I'm usually pretty booked out a week to a week and a half. And like, once calls are on the schedule, I'm not going to move them because I made commitments.
Mm-hmm.
But if I look 3 weeks out and I want to take a Friday or a Wednesday or a Monday off, I can. And it is so valuable to have that autonomy.
Yeah.
And it's something that really bothered me when I worked in finance, and I was only 22 to 25. But even at that point in my life, I'm like, this feels so wrong that another human is telling me when I can go to the dentist, when I can go fix something on my car. I have to like beg for permission. And I can only imagine what that's like when you're, a full grown adult.
Yeah. I love that you've figured a lot of this stuff out. I wish I had figured this stuff out at your age. It's like the autonomy became that was also really important to me. The autonomy piece and those were attached to my values and things like that. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of like, being told exactly what I have to do and when. However, I will say in this government job, there was like a pretty, like it was 8:30 to 4:30. It was very structured. But here's the other interesting thing about it, because I am generally can be a workaholic. I was not allowed to work more than 37.5 hours a week. So I just couldn't because it was a government job. So that was really interesting to me. If you've come from a design world where you just like you're on a salary, but you just keep working and working and working until you're like bleeding from your eyeballs. This I couldn't. It was like, okay, we're done now. Gotta go. That was so good for me because it was some structure. I felt like I was still productive, but at the 4:30 mark, I kind of had to get on that bus and get my ass home.
You're going to love this. There's a design firm in Germany where at 5 p.m. every day, the desks are tethered to these cables and literally everything starts getting pulled up to the ceiling. So if you're sitting on your desk, you have to jump off. You cannot work any longer.
That I would love that. I feel like that's what we need here. That, we need to stop working as much. Like, I don't know what else to say about that.
Full stop, exclamation point.
Yeah.
So I think we have to come back to this big, hairy, audacious goal that you are working on once a week. It sounds like for 4 hours a week. Are you willing to share that with us?
So it's still a little top secret for now because that's because I'm just enjoying it so much. And I tend to, like, I talk about my whole life all the time on this podcast, other podcasts, but I think some things I don't like sharing until I feel like I'm ready. But I will say that being able to connect with something again that brings me joy, because the truth is a lot of the design stuff I do, because I've been doing it for so long, I don't feel the joy that I used to when I was younger. And I will say there's a grieving process for anyone, and I totally empathize with anyone who's still doing something, even if you've only been doing it for 2, 3, or 5 years, it doesn't bring you the same joy. And sometimes I feel sad because I don't know if I'll ever feel that joy again. So except like coming face to face with that. It's not to say that I don't enjoy parts of what I do and I deliver stuff to clients that I'm very proud of, but do whatever and I don't like telling people what to do, but today I'm telling you what to do. You've got to find something that brings you a true joy where the time flies. Like I hadn't been in that zone where, if you've ever read The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, which is one of my favorite books, you got to be in that zone of like genius or connection where the time flies. So for me, having that satisfaction, like I can't believe how happy it's making me. And I just encourage anyone to, like, if it might take a while, but find something. And a lot of the times it's things that you did as a kid. Like I don't have to, like that one's pretty obvious.
So many things I want to say to this. First, The Big Leap, amazing book. We're putting it in the show notes. That feels like a little synchronicity because he just went on one of my favorite podcasts, Modern Wisdom. And I was listening to that episode on the way to work this morning.
Oh, cool.
The second piece is it's so fun and funny being a coach because great coaching is not giving advice, it's asking questions.
Yeah.
But then you get invited to go on podcasts and everyone wants you to give advice.
Yeah.
So it's this dance between your marketing and your sales and your lead generation where you actually do kind of have to give advice and take a
Yeah.
stance on things. And then when you actually get in the room with clients, you only ask questions.
Yeah. And I think that's what's great about having a podcast is that you do get to put a little bit more of your personal opinion on things and people can take it or leave it. So that's what I love that platform for that reason. And I'll joke on my hammer, like on my podcast when I call it hammer time. I'm just like, I'm dropping the hammer. This is what I think. Take it or leave it. But like sometimes I do think we need someone to just like push us a little bit, wake us up a little bit, slap us across the face and be like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I can't tell you to quit your job, but if these are the boxes that are being checked, I highly recommend you look for a new job, you know?
I love that. I'm gonna borrow that language because I normally say, okay, I'm taking off my coaching hat now, but I love
Yes.
it's hammer time. I'm dropping the hammer.
Yeah, my husband came up with that term because I've had to learn when it's the appropriate time to drop
Yep.
the hammer. Yeah.
And just speaking of the kind of difference between showing up as a coach and showing up elsewhere, I love when, especially my leadership clients who know nothing about me, like they literally just know me as this man with a mustache who appears on a screen to do leadership coaching with them. I love when they come across my LinkedIn and see that I'm a real human who does real things. Or a couple of them have found my TEDx talk without me sending it to them. And they're just like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that you are into all these different things. And
Yeah.
it's fun.
Yeah, I really enjoy your LinkedIn too because you're just sharing a lot of experiences and like the reflection piece of it is really, I think, what's needed on platforms like LinkedIn. Like it's not just telling me what to do, but here's a reflection on this experience that I've had. And that's why I also love podcasts and what you guys are doing. So,
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's something that I heard from this guy named Case Kenny, who talked about, and he has a really big podcast platform. He does lots of things now, but he basically was saying, and I really related to this. I was in my 20s and I was trying to figure out how I was going to create content. What was I going to talk about? And I was kind of regurgitating these thoughts and ideas from other people. And that didn't go too well. Obviously, you can hear this, you can hear an, you can hear a Marcus Aurelius quote from Gregory, or you can hear a Marcus Aurelius quote from Ryan Holiday, who's written like 12 books on Marcus Aurelius. Like, which content are you going to go to? Obviously, Ryan Holiday's. But Case talked about how he just started having all of these experiences. He realized that he needed to stop learning cognitive intelligent knowledge and just go out and have life experience and then just tell the story. And that's really been my goal. And I continue to lean into that more and more. The plan is to do more and more of this, is just go have experiences and then tell a story about it. Because humans love stories.
We need stories and the reflection piece. And it's funny because I got like obsessed with fiction again back in 2023. So I've always been a big reader, but I was going down that like reading every personal development book, like just like hoarding them all, right? And then actually my naturopath was like, I think you should read some fiction. Like, why don't we throw a little like it's weird to think that I was talking about books for a lot of my appointments, but this is what to me true healthcare is. So basically we were coming up with a strategy to help me walk more. Like in the afternoon, I was like too chained to my desk. So she's like, okay, what if we listen to like an audiobook? So the fiction piece, I forgot how much I loved fiction. Like I grew up reading it. I didn't grow up reading The Big Leap. And I was, and so this has also become a huge piece of joy for me is it motivates me to do my walk every day and diving into all these other human experiences, how they're handling it, the reactions. It's building your emotional intelligence. It's lighting up parts of the brain that I think have been dormant. So I can anywhere I can get a story, I'm there for it.
You didn't grow up reading 7 Habits of Highly Effective People?
You know what? I think I might have thrown that book out. I feel like really bad saying that, but there were certain books that I've gone through a lot of my books lately and just been like, this is too controlled, too contrived. I think I'm just leaning a little bit more into things that are feeling more organic. But yeah, I feel bad saying that.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more on the fiction piece. That is another hill that I will die on, is that reading fiction is so important. And when I meet people who are like, oh, I don't read fiction, I only read nonfiction, personal development, all these things. I'm like, you are missing out on some of the best nonfiction lessons because
Yes.
in a fiction story, you have control of everything. Obviously, the world, the characters, the dialogue, and you can drive home a lesson that is real and realistic more powerfully than you can in nonfiction because you can, again, control all the different elements. And I love the creativity piece. I love getting to step into someone else's mind in their world. It can be just so different. So yeah, I'm a big fiction fan and I read both, but right now I'm in a big fiction phase and I'm
Cool.
loving it.
It's escape. It's like it's a healthy escape that I just think is so comforting. It's comforting. And I think we need that right now, right?
So as we come to the end, the tail end of this podcast, I want to go a slightly different direction just based on what I know about you and how you interviewed my friend Catherine. What do you think about the timing of everything and how there might be a universal force out there that's guiding us or giving us intuition? I kind of want to just step into this more woo woo realm for a little bit because I think we both resonate with it.
Oh yeah, I'm fully in the woo. Um, and how I step into it is it's kind of recognizing that it's a part of me and that's a part of us that we is innate to us. So I do think it is innate to us. And when I really started stepping more into the spiritual side of myself, then my life did become easier, less struggly, because I do feel that things are the way I kind of see it is that there's certain like goalposts or there's certain things that we're going to hit in our life that were on the path, that they were going to happen, whether we wanted them or not. And then how we navigate them is up to us. And I've had so many crazy magical experiences happen in my life that I could not believe in things that are spiritual if I wanted to, because um, it's there. And I've allowed myself to kind of step into it. And of course, the more you meditate, the more you connect to your intuition. Like my intuition is like crazy on point most of the time if I actually just let it flow. And when I'm in a coaching session, I'm not sitting there telling people that my intuition is telling me what questions to ask, but that's usually what's happening.
Intuition is something that I am very interested in right now. I just spent the weekend with Catherine, who I just mentioned. And how do you tap into your intuition? How do you strengthen that relationship with yourself?
Mm-hmm. I'm probably going to give an answer close to what Catherine said, because she also came on my podcast, which was like such an amazing conversation episode. Um, well, it's doing the opposite of being the mad dog. It's sitting quietly. It's pacing yourself. So I do meditate every day, but my meditation sometimes just looks at like me sitting on a bench in the park that I walk through and sitting and staring at the trees and the birds. Like it doesn't have to be this whole thing. So I call it meditation, but not. It's just like, it's the quiet time. And making decisions quickly has been something that I've also kind of harnessed. So that is everything about where do I want to go for dinner to what design do I like better. Like I making decisions quickly and not hesitating has really honed my intuition.
I love that answer because we usually have a intuitive hit on where we want to go for dinner, which design we like better, which book we
Yeah.
want to read next.
Yeah.
And then at least for me going back to the book one, I'm like, oh yeah, I really want to read that book next, but I can't because I'm supposed to read this book over here first. And then I have this whole list and maybe I'll get to that one in like 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like an avid baker, so I bake almost every day. And one of the interesting things that I've noticed is that the recipe, sometimes I know the recipe, but it'll say bake between 30 and 35 minutes. Just before I put the cake or whatever it is in the oven, I will be like, 37 minutes, and I'll put in 37 minutes. Like I guesstimate the time every single time I bake something, no matter what the recipe says. I don't actually listen to it.
That is really cool. And what I'm hearing in all of this is that the more you practice that quick decision making, that quick trusting yourself, probably the more it strengthens.
Yeah. And then a huge part of it is also like the movement, like keeping as much movement as possible in your day. So whether you want to call it exercise, movement, things like that, and reducing like all the fun stuff, reducing the processed food, reducing all the garbage, like all the things you put into your body are going to affect your intuition. I have like really not, I just haven't had alcohol in a long time for no major reason, nothing, no big story there. And I will say, I cannot believe how clear I feel in terms of my intuition.
Yeah. I don't think I give myself enough credit around my own intuition because I tell myself the story that I'm not that intuitive. And yet when I look at my life, there's been so many big changes that have come from intuition. Like for myself, stopping drinking alcohol, leaving the nonprofit I co-founded, becoming a coach, all these different things.
Yeah. And I almost feel like, we don't want to step into our intuition because people won't take our decisions seriously if we say it came from a place of intuition. Like we discount it, and I think that's by design as well, to discount our intuition, because we know, like, everyone doesn't, I don't care how left brain they are, at some point they had a moment in their life where their gut told them not to do something and they did it and they regretted it. Everyone has that. And
Yeah,
yeah.
all the time. And it's making me think of a study I just heard about where pictures were shown to study participants, either really happy, positive picture or like a really scary, negative one. And they would show picture after picture after picture. And they were tracking pulse, stress levels, like perspiration on the skin. They had the participants hooked up to this crazy machine that was measuring all these different like nervous system indicators. And after multiple pictures, the body would react milliseconds before the next picture was shown, positive or negative, and it was right all the time. Like that blows my mind.
Yeah.
That the body, the intuition can somehow know what's coming next. And so that's why I'm so intrigued by this idea of intuition right now. So thank you for letting me share it. And I'm also noticing that intuition seems to be strongest in people like you, people like Catherine, these badass, powerful women that I'm meeting. So thanks for modeling that.
Yeah. And it's like, it's really fun to play with your intuition. Like, I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves for it to get it right, or always to be on point. But it doesn't have to be. It's just like this part of us that we can reconnect to. And yeah, that's how I pick every podcast guest that comes on my show. Is I look at their photo and I get a yes or a no, and that's it.
And for me, you just got lost in the mustache and you're like, it's an obvious yes.
Oh, it was such a yes for you, because you can read someone's energy from their photo. And I just have to say this: if you're on LinkedIn, please do not use an AI photo of yourself. Please use a real photo. Please, please, please.
Yeah. Thank you for this conversation as a whole, but this last piece feels really powerful for me personally because I'm realizing that the intuition is there for me. It is just my intuition has to drag my intellect kicking and screaming for like 3 months across the line for me to make that decision. So hopefully as I continue to lean into it more and make more of those quick little decisions, I'll start to trust it more.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of your story. That's part of your path, right? To like, that's the transformation that you get to share with people, is how you kind of went from this to this, or how you're morphing into a different version of yourself and changing your identity. And that is your story. That's what you're sharing.
Yeah. Thanks so much for helping me remember that. I want to end with a really hard question I just thought of.
Okay.
Speaking of books,
Yeah.
what is one fiction book you would recommend to people listening?
I'm like 3 years behind the phenomenon of it, but I just read Remarkably Bright Creatures, which is
I've never heard of it.
basically people just call it the octopus book because an octopus is part of the storyline. And for me, it was perfect. There's nothing I would change about it. I loved it. They're making it into a Netflix movie, so it's become popular. But just to read a story that's about human connection, that's just delightful. I absolutely loved it. I keep talking about this octopus book.
And is this unrelated from My Octopus Teacher?
Yes,
That's a
it is.
show.
But
Okay.
however, if you enjoyed that, I mean, it does talk about, because you learn about octopuses in this book and their intelligence. And that's just connecting to the intelligence of everything around us, which I think also connects to intuition. And it's like, yeah, I love it.
Amazing. I will put that in the show notes. Alana, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for having me on your show. It was such a fun conversation that we had the other day.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you so much, Gregory. I loved this conversation.
And thank you everyone for tuning in with us today. As always, we love you guys, and it might be time for you to go read a book about octopuses.